On February 13, 2025, the world watched as former President Donald Trump announced a major development in the ongoing Ukraine conflict. He revealed that he had secured a commitment from Russian President Vladimir Putin to engage in immediate ceasefire negotiations. This unexpected announcement came after a phone call, described by both sides as productive, where the two leaders discussed the urgent need to end the bloodshed in Ukraine. The news sent ripples through the international community, with many questioning Trump's motivations and the potential implications for Ukraine's future. This development marks a significant shift in the dynamics of the conflict. Ever since Russia's invasion, the United States has stood as a steadfast ally of Ukraine, providing substantial military and financial aid. Trump's decision to pursue direct negotiations with Putin, bypassing traditional diplomatic channels, signals a potential departure from this approach. The location for the proposed peace talks adds another layer of intrigue to this unfolding situation. Saudi Arabia, a country known for its strategic ambiguity and complex relationship with both the United States and Russia, will serve as the neutral ground for these high-stakes discussions. The choice of venue underscores the delicate nature of the negotiations and the intricate geopolitical web surrounding the conflict in Ukraine. While the prospect of a ceasefire offers a glimmer of hope for a peaceful resolution, the path ahead remains fraught with uncertainty. The success of these negotiations hinges on the willingness of all parties involved to engage in good faith and find common ground. The international community waits with bated breath to see if Trump's gamble for peace will bear fruit or further complicate an already volatile situation. In the wake of the ceasefire announcement, former President Trump has articulated his perspective on the potential contours of a peace deal. He has signaled a willingness to accept key Russian demands, particularly regarding Ukraine's neutrality and territorial concessions. Trump has stated that he is okay with Ukraine remaining outside of NATO. He argues that Ukraine's membership in the alliance was never a realistic possibility, and that pursuing it only served to provoke Russia. This stance represents a significant departure from the pre-invasion consensus among Western allies, who, while stopping short of offering immediate membership, supported Ukraine's right to seek NATO membership. Furthermore, Trump has downplayed the importance of restoring Ukraine's territorial integrity to its pre-2014 borders. He has suggested that it is unlikely for Ukraine to reclaim all the territories lost since the conflict began, including Crimea. Instead, he has emphasized the need to prioritize saving lives and ending the bloodshed over what he perceives as less critical territorial disputes. This pragmatic, albeit controversial approach has drawn criticism from those who accuse Trump of appeasing Putin and abandoning Ukraine's right to self-determination. Trump's position on Ukraine's future has ignited a firestorm of debate both domestically and internationally. Critics argue that his concessions undermine Ukraine's sovereignty and reward Russia's aggression. They contend that any peace deal that legitimizes Russia's territorial gains would set a dangerous precedent, emboldening further aggression in the region. Proponents of Trump's approach, however, argue that his willingness to compromise is essential for achieving a lasting peace. They argue that clinging to maximalist demands, such as full territorial restoration, is unrealistic, and will only prolong the suffering of the Ukrainian people. The debate over Trump's vision for Ukraine's future is likely to rage on as the negotiations progress, highlighting the complex moral and strategic dilemmas at the heart of this conflict. Trump has assembled a team of seasoned diplomats and advisors to represent the United States in the upcoming ceasefire negotiations. This team, however, notably excludes some key figures from the previous administration who were deeply involved in Ukraine policy. Leading the U.S. delegation is Secretary of State Marco Rubio, known for his hawkish stance on Russia and strong support for Ukraine. Rubio's presence suggests a continuation of the tough stance on Russia, even as Trump seeks a negotiated settlement. Joining him are CIA Director John Ratcliffe, National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, and Middle East Envoy Steve Witkoff. Each brings a wealth of experience in international relations and crisis management, suggesting a multifaceted approach to these complex negotiations. The composition of the U.S. negotiating team reflects the delicate balance Trump is trying to strike between pursuing peace and safeguarding American interests. The inclusion of individuals with diverse backgrounds and expertise highlights the multifaceted nature of the challenge at hand. The team will need to navigate intricate diplomatic considerations, assess the credibility of Russian commitments, and address the concerns of both Ukraine and European allies. Notably absent from the U.S. delegation is General Keith Kellogg, who served as Trump's special envoy to Ukraine and Russia during his previous presidency. Kellogg's deep understanding of the conflict and experience in dealing with both Ukrainian and Russian officials would have been invaluable. His exclusion has raised eyebrows and fueled speculation about potential disagreements within the Trump camp regarding the best approach to the negotiations. The U.S. negotiating team faces the daunting task of finding a solution that addresses the core issues driving the conflict while safeguarding American interests and reassuring anxious allies. Whether they can bridge the divides and forge a durable peace remains to be seen. The outcome of these negotiations will have profound implications, not only for Ukraine but for the future of Europe and the global order. Trump's surprise announcement of ceasefire negotiations and his willingness to consider concessions to Russia have been met with mixed reactions from European leaders. While some express cautious optimism, many remain deeply skeptical of Putin's intentions and apprehensive about the potential consequences of a deal that prioritizes a swift end to the conflict over Ukraine's long-term security and territorial integrity. European capitals are abuzz with diplomatic activity as leaders grapple with the implications of Trump's initiative. French President Emmanuel Macron, who has consistently advocated for dialogue with Russia, welcomed the prospect of negotiations but stressed the importance of preserving Ukraine's sovereignty. He emphasized that any solution must be acceptable to the Ukrainian people and uphold the principles of international law. Similarly, German Chancellor Annalena Baerbock, while supporting the pursuit of peace, expressed concerns about potential concessions to Russia. She emphasized the need for strong security guarantees for Ukraine, suggesting that a neutral status without robust security arrangements would leave the country vulnerable to future aggression. The most vocal criticism came from the Baltic states and Poland, countries with a history of Russian domination and deep-seated mistrust of Moscow. They fear that a peace deal that legitimizes Russia's territorial gains in Ukraine would embolden Putin and destabilize the entire region. They have urged the United States and its allies to maintain pressure on Russia through sanctions and continued military support for Ukraine until a just and lasting peace can be achieved. The European Union, while officially supporting the peace talks, remains internally divided on the best way forward. Some member states, particularly those geographically closer to Russia, are wary of provoking Moscow and prioritize a swift end to the conflict, even if it means accepting concessions. Others, primarily in Western and Northern Europe, believe that Russia must be held accountable for its aggression and that appeasing Putin would only embolden him in the long run.